Hey everyone, welcome back to another week, another new school year for the Triple Play podcast here on tnjn.com. I am your host, Danielle Whaley, and this week I am joined by David Bradford. I guess you could say you were kind of a veteran on the show now.
I guess you could say that, so go ahead and say it.
You're a veteran on the show, so there you have it.
That's what I like to hear.
David Bradford, the veteran here on the Triple Play. We have a lot to cover this week as we get started. We have new segments that we're starting this year. That's really exciting stuff. Segments that you'll be hearing whenever we talk about Tennessee football and SEC in terms of football. We'll have some new segments once basketball season rolls around. But let's go ahead and dive right in because it is SEC week. It is officially SEC week here on Rocky Top as Tennessee gets ready to host number 19 Florida. But let's recap where we are so far. The Vols are 3-0. They started off as number 9 in the nation, which was an incredible ranking. Some people thought it might be a little too overrated.
I thought it was underrated.
Underrated.
Yeah, I thought they should have been top 5, but
who would have been in your top 5 then?
Preseason?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, preseason. Man, this is kind of embarrassing to admit because most of the teams I picked to do well are just completely like shattering my dreams. Alabama would have been number 1.
Of course.
Number 2 would have been Florida State. Number 3 would have been Michigan, and number 4 would have been Clemson, and then Tennessee at 5.
Clemson at 4. That's surprising.
Yeah, I mean, 8 returning starters on offense. I mean, they took care of South Carolina State, and you know how good South Carolina State isn't.
Yeah, dropped ball in the end zone whenever you're trying to return
That was
it.
the greatest play that's ever happened.
I'm still in shock that even happened.
Imagine being that guy
Wow.
on campus and just people are like looking at him.
Dropping things in front of him.
Yes.
Poor guy. It's so sad.
That'd be so funny.
But looking at the Vols, like I said, they're 3-0 so far to start the season. They started off ranked at number 9 and fell to number 17 after an overtime win to Appalachian State, which I don't think many people expected that overtime win to happen. Should have been a blowout.
Yeah, that win's looking really great right now. Just kidding.
Not at all. But a win that is looking great is the win over Virginia Tech. That helped Tennessee move up to number 15 after they defeated the Hokies at the Battle at Bristol. And now they stand at number 14 after beating Ohio on Saturday. And another close game. I mean, it was a 9-point game, but I don't think anyone really saw Tennessee having that close of a differential with the Bobcats.
It was supposed to be, the game where Quentin Dormady came out in the second half and got some experience. And, I mean, Tennessee was a 4-touchdown favorite. So winning by 9, I mean, that's close to 4 touchdowns if touchdowns count for 2 points each. So
of course,
it all depends on your perspective.
I guess that's one way of looking at it. Who knows? Either way, should not have been that close, especially against a team like Ohio. But, it's SEC week now. Like I said, the team has to shift its focus to bigger and better opponents. Not that the first 3 opponents weren't great. It's just now it's a whole new realm of talent.
No, we can say they weren't great.
Depends on your perspective. We'll go with that.
Okay, yeah.
So, out of the first 3 games, which game stood out to you the most?
Like in a positive way or just any
Positive
way?
or negative?
Well, man, like this is such a hard question because this might be kind of hyperbolic, but I found negative positives, like no positives out of the first 3 games whatsoever because defensively, they're not really facing offenses that I think are that dangerous. I mean, Appalachian State, Virginia Tech, and Ohio, not State. Neither 3 of those offenses are all that impressive. I know Ohio, not State, put up 54 on Texas State, and which is, I mean, not impressive because Texas. But then Texas State put up 56 on Ohio, not State.
Right.
So the only thing I can say is that in the first 3 games, the Vols' main problem, and it was a problem they experienced last year, is the offensive line. And if your offensive line is not performing at at least decent level, everything behind that falls apart. So people want to point at Dobbs and his passing, or people want to say Jalen Hurts not having a great year, or Alvin Kamara is not getting enough touches. But at the end of the day, all those problems are solved if the offensive line is doing its job. And I don't think they have a solid starting 5 yet, and that's not good when you're playing Florida right now. It's like they should have had this problem solved by week 2 at the Battle of Bristol, and it was still a problem against Ohio. And now you're going through your 4-game stretch of doom against your 4 toughest opponents, and your offensive line is still a big problem. So that's what I took away. I don't think that I mean, defensively, I think this team will be fine against all four of the opponents. These will be close games. I don't think any of them will be shootouts. But that's, again, we don't really know how great this defense is because they haven't been challenged yet. And
That's true.
The main problem is offensive line. That's what stood out to me.
I agree. Offensive line has just been, oof. I can't put into words how brutal it's been to watch this offensive line. There's so many fundamental things that are just falling apart with this team. So many holes that just aren't being filled. And there's just another problem I have is with Jalen Hurd always going for the A gap. Yes, I get this man is huge. He is a big man. But whenever Alvin Kamara gets the ball, he's able to actually get some yardage.
Yeah.
So I just think that there's just something not clicking between the running game and this offensive line.
And is it just me or are they really predictable on first down?
Yes.
Don't they do the same thing pretty much every time?
Yes.
And also another thing, do they run Dobbs enough?
That is a good question because I feel like we've seen him get some runs, and if he has gotten them, they've been somewhat substantial.
Yes.
But I just feel like this team's not being versatile enough with their playbook.
Yeah, it's really one-dimensional. I mean, I guess maybe a positive who knows how effective this combination will be against Florida, but the Dobbs to Malone connection, well, I mean, at least in scoring, I mean, they're not really getting a lot of connections, but they score, and that's all that really matters. So, I mean, that's a positive because, I mean, last season, what receiver could you say had a good connection with Dobbs throughout the beginning of the year, even the whole year? So I think that's a positive sign. But, I mean, if Malone goes against Tease Tabor, I mean, I'm pretty sure not much is going to happen. Because as much as Tennessee fans love Tease Tabor, they love him so much. The dude is a stud.
He is.
And he's a shutdown corner.
For sure.
And that's going to be a problem.
One thing that comes up, too, that I keep thinking about is why is Ethan Wolf not getting enough looks either? We know that he can catch. We know that he has the chance to make plays. But I think we've seen him have maybe not even a dozen, solid receptions.
Yeah, I don't know where he is either. And I'm just puzzled with this entire offense. It starts with the offensive line, but even here's another conspiracy, though, that Vol fans are thinking of. They're not showing their playbook in the first 3 games because they want to hide it. But the problem with that is how do they know what they have is going to work?
Exactly.
And why would you start it against Florida? That is just terrible logic. No offensive coordinator would ever think of doing stuff like that. They're doing the stuff they want to do. It's just not working.
Right, and I mean, you can't just save most of the playbook for just practice and not put it out on a field to test how things are going to work. I don't get Vol Nation with that conspiracy. They're just trying to
convince themselves that everything is okay, and it's not okay right now.
I agree with you on that one. I think there are definitely some changes that need to be made in terms of play calling, but also just trying to make breaks with this playbook because I don't really know what's going on. I don't think anyone really knows what's going on. But for me, the one thing that has stood out the most, besides the troubles with the offensive line, that Virginia Tech game was probably one of the best performances I've seen in a while. But that's just because it was the first solid come-from-behind victory. Because the first quarter looked really bad.
Okay, I will have to disagree. I'm sorry.
Fair. No, that's okay.
And here's why. Now, it was their most, complete performance. I mean, they won by 21 points. And they honestly, I mean, the last touchdown Virginia Tech scored was garbage time. So they were at 45-17. I think the atmosphere of that game made the win seem bigger than it was.
That's
I mean,
true.
the fact that it was at Bristol, and so everyone was just super excited about that. And Bristol was an amazing experience. Don't get me wrong.
It was good.
It was good. But when I look at that game, I saw the offensive line not performing great. Dobbs not being able to throw. He should have had at least 4 or 5 interceptions in that game.
I agree.
And he was throwing passes that were just it was like Brett Favre, but he's not Brett Favre. He can't make all those throws. But he was making Brett Favre decisions that just make you wonder, what are you doing? To me, that game, I mean, you can say the defense made a lot of plays with forced fumbles, but Virginia Tech, though, I mean, they had problems holding onto the ball even before then. So I view that game more as, this might seem unfair to the Vols, but I view that game more as Virginia Tech giving it away because they were up quick, and the Vols, were down 14-0, punted again. And if it weren't for that fumble that Virginia Tech had, which was completely Virginia Tech's fault, not Tennessee's doing, that completely changed the game. So it would have been interesting to see if that play had not happened, what would have happened in that game. But it happened, so you can't really take it away from Tennessee. Sure. It was a good win, but that game I don't take much positive from either. That's just my opinion.
No, that makes complete sense. I mean, those fumbles from the Hokies, those definitely that's not something you're used to seeing with Virginia Tech. I don't care that they have a new head coach in the realm. I mean, Frank Beamer was still in the atmosphere. Beamer was going to have some kind of feelings with this. Like, it was going to be kind of like Beamer ball that we're used to, but it wasn't like that. This is the kind of game that Frank Beamer would not have allowed in a million years. No. So it's just, even with a new coach, you don't expect those things to happen, especially with a team like Virginia Tech. Going into the game, I was so excited. I thought it was going to be really, really close the entire game, but then watching, like you said, Virginia Tech give it away, it did take away, like, the joy that could have come out of that win. But still, like, with it being a come-from-behind win, it's probably the best we're going to see for a while with this next 4-game stretch, most likely.
Yeah, it was a good comeback, though. That's an important part.
Sure, definitely. But looking at what we've seen so far with the Vols, the highs and lows on both sides of the ball, because there are highs and lows on both sides. What's the biggest high and the lowest of lows that you've seen so far with this team as we do head into Florida week?
On offense or just
either? Okay. Offense or defense?
Defensively, the secondary. Well, I mean, they just lost Cam Sutton, though, which is terrible. But before that, Abernathy was just having himself a great year, and it's going to continue. And the secondary was the unit that everyone was questioning the most. But I will also be skeptical and say, like, what quarterback, what receiving. I mean, Virginia Tech has a great 1-2 punch in the receiving core. They did a good job of shutting them down for the most part. So the secondary is great. Now, this happened last year with the defensive line. Like, they're playing fine, but they don't get enough sacks. And
that's true.
Like last year, it was like the same thing, especially with Barnett. Like, the beginning of the year, he could not record a sack. And they're pressuring decently, but you have that talent in the front four. I mean, this defensive line against those 3 offensive lines should be unstoppable. And hopefully, I mean, they find a way to turn it around just in time for the biggest opponents. But I'm a little disappointed in their defensive line play thus far. But it hasn't been terrible.
I agree. Defensive line it hasn't been as bad as the offensive line, so I think that's one plus.
That's true.
That's probably the high right now.
Yeah.
But for my low, I mean, like you said, bringing up Cam Sutton and also Jalen Reeves-Maben, the low is the injuries that we're seeing on defense right now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think that's going to be brutal heading into the next 4 games because, like you said earlier, this is like the death streak coming up. These are some of the toughest opponents that the Vols are going to see. They're all ranked teams. They're all in the top 20.
I'm just going to, real quick, we're not beating Bama.
I don't see that happening, especially right now. Could things change maybe within 3 games?
I mean, if Alabama's entire roster, gets hurt, maybe.
Maybe. But we'll be discussing that in full as we keep going on in the season. But first, the first team that we do have to face, that the Vols have to face, is number 19, Florida. It's Florida week, like I said. The swamp is just going to be, it's going to kind of be coming to Rocky Top almost. Yeah. I feel like it's going to be that kind of a matchup. I hate to say that.
Here's the thing. As excited as I am for this game, after the whole summer of just talking about this game, I cannot wait for this game to be over.
Right.
I just want it to end. And also, it's also the same day as a Kanye West concert, and I can't go to the Kanye West concert now, so that's just depressing. Because I love Kanye West, but that's besides the point. Priorities, right? I have to go to the game.
Exactly.
But, just all the chatter around this game and just the 11 years and, let's just count all the curses that are happening in this game.
Right.
1, Florida backup quarterback. 2, Checker Nealon. 3, game day. 4, 3:30 on CBS. How many curses can you have in one game? And it's just freaking out the fan base.
Right.
And I know none of that stuff is going to matter at the end of the day, but if going into the season wasn't the feeling that Tennessee was going to blow Florida out, I was hearing 45-10, and now it's completely reversed. Now everyone's picking Florida.
Yeah. I was kind of feeling the same blowout, but funny you should say 45-10. I was thinking 35-10.
Okay.
So who knows? Maybe it could be 10-point margin. Who knows?
Maybe the offense has been hiding everything, and they're just the greatest offense of all time.
Maybe Mike DeBoer has something up his sleeve, and he's just saying, "Be ready for it." Who knows at this point?
He hasn't even told his players. He's like, "I won't tell you till the day of the game."
Exactly. Who knows what's going to happen? But the big question, like you said, there is a streak. So the question that comes up now: do the Vols beat the streak?
I said in the Periscope they're going to lose, but that was just me joking. I think Tennessee's going to win this game. And the reason why I feel like Tennessee's going to win this game is, well, first of all, Florida just lost their starting quarterback, and I get it. It doesn't matter what quarterback Florida has on the field. They seem to always beat Tennessee.
Exactly.
But And, Cam Sutton, I think Cam Sutton being out for this game is not the end of the world because I don't see Florida as a really dangerous passing team. And Jalen Reeves-Maben is going to play, and he's going to be the X factor because, he's had a really good season so far, but this is going to be his breakout game. And I think the captains of this team, I know this sounds so cliche, but they want it so bad, especially after the way last year ended.
True.
I think this team has, and I still think the Vols haven't played up to their potential. And not even anywhere near their potential. And I'm still not sold on Florida just because they beat North Texas, Kentucky, and Massachusetts. Tease Tabor is a stud, but he can't do it all on his own. And if the Vols are smart, they don't throw to him. Just don't. And I don't see why they should throw a lot in this game at all. Why would you do that? They ran the ball extremely well against them last year.
Right.
I mean, Dobbs was the leading receiver last year against Florida. So that just shows you how potent the passing attack was.
He was the leader in everything, even receptions.
Yeah.
There you go.
He did everything. So this game, to me, run, control the ball, and make sure the defense doesn't always go back on the field over and over and over and over and over again like they did against Ohio.
I think the one thing that I'm really focused on in terms of which team kind of has an edge, which we're going to head into a segment with this in a second, but Florida's defense, I feel like that's the key right now. They are pretty much an all-defensive team.
Yeah.
So does that worry me with Tennessee's offense, the state of the offense we've seen so far? A little bit.
But I would counter, I don't know who Florida has played.
That's true.
Yet. I mean, they held North Texas to, 53 yards, which I think that says more about North Texas than it does about Florida.
I agree with that. And like you said, I mean, Kentucky, Kentucky for sure is just one team that's not going to do well at all this season, especially since they open up the season almost losing to Southern Miss. But some people saw that happening. I saw that happening we'll talk about Kentucky another day. Yeah. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But it's just with the streak still happening for the longest time. I mean, the whole summer I thought it would be 35-10.
Yeah.
But as of late, I've had this reoccurring thought that what if it's like South Carolina from 2013? It comes down to a final field goal to win it.
I don't think any Tennessee fan wants that.
I don't think a college football fan wants that.
Yeah, just end this game in the third quarter or something. Get a good distance.
Finish out the fourth.
I don't know if Tennessee can close out a close game like that.
I don't think they could. Not with the team
Florida.
that we have
they
right
did against
now.
Appalachian State for what that's worth, but they lost 45-10 to Miami. But whatever.
That's fair. That's fair. It's going to be an interesting game for sure. I think it's the only way to really look at it.
Yeah.
But for the new segment that we're going to start this year with Tennessee football, it's going to be called The Winning Edge,
Boom.
per the fifth maxim from General Robert Nealand, which talks about the winning edge. Pretty great. So what do you think is the Vols' winning edge heading into Florida week? Or do they even have a winning edge?
They have a winning edge because I'm going to pick them to win. That'd be funny if I picked them to win and they have no winning edge. But,
True.
I mentioned it before, Jalen Reeves-Maben. I think this is a game where he has his best performance. He's going to have an Oklahoma-type performance, when he was all over the field making tackles left and right. But this time, they won't be screwing up on third downs and fourth downs like they did against Oklahoma, Florida last year. So I think Jalen Reeves-Maben and just the overall leadership of this team, I think they're going to be so focused on this opponent. And, it could be a thing. I don't want to say this is a fact because I don't know that they've been just locked in on this game before the season started, and maybe they didn't put enough. But then again, this team always says they're focused on week by week, but I feel like that might be somewhat of a lie. They're focused on this game, and they're going to have their best performance. Jalen Reeves-Maben, to me, is the winning edge and the leadership.
I agree with that a lot, especially the leadership on this team. I mean, these captains know there's so much at stake, and they're going, hopefully, I plan for them to do this, they are going to perform to that ability. They know what's on the table. They're going to make sure the win happens.
Yes.
I also think Luke Del Rio being out for Florida is another winning edge for the Vols. You hate to say that a player being down is a winning edge, but it could happen.
There's only one person happy about Luke Del Rio being down, and that's the backup quarterback for Florida, everyone is just trashing on Twitter.
It's been brutal.
I think it's unreasonable, but it's still funny.
I feel bad for the guy almost because he's just being thrown into it, kind of like how he was thrown into the game against North Texas. So I hate to say that that's a winning edge for Tennessee, but it might end up being the winning edge that they really need.
What's his last name? Appleby? Oh, we're gonna
better than TGI Fridays.
We're gonna
though.
lose. We're gonna lose. You can't beat a quarterback named Appleby.
I guess. I mean, if he has quesadillas as good as Applebee's, then who knows?
Oh, this is over.
Who knows? But let's go ahead and shift over to some SEC talk, but
Oh,
don't
the
forget
SEC.
the SEC, but don't forget to tune in Saturday, Tennessee, Florida, 3:30 on CBS, College Game Day. Like David said, we'll be here at in Knoxville, I should say, and that's going to be at 9 a.m. on ESPN. People will be flocking to the location at 4 a.m. most likely. So if you're going to be here for it, be here early, be hydrated.
I will be
ready.
asleep.
I will be there at 6 a.m.
I will be asleep.
Can't wait. So 3:30 CBS, Vols Gators, number 19 against number 14. Number 15, excuse me. No, number 14.
They're 14,
It's number
yeah,
14 now. They went up one spot.
Which is stunning to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't understand that logic, but okay.
The AP polls have been interesting so far, but all
logic.
that matters are the college playoff ones once
All
we
that
get
matters
there.
is Tennessee keeps winning.
That's fair. Other teams keep winning in the SEC as well. Horrible segue, but we're going to use it, especially Alabama. Will they lose? Who knows? But so far in the SEC, 8 teams are in the AP rankings this week, and I'll go through them real quick. Alabama at number 1, Texas A&M at number 10, Georgia at number 12, Tennessee at 14, like we've already said, Arkansas at 17, LSU 18, Florida 19, and Ole Miss rounding out the 8 teams at number 23 in the AP rankings this week. So there's obviously a lot of talent in the SEC like we've seen in the first few weeks. But which team do you have your eye on the most this season?
Well, that's tough because I'm really not liking what I'm seeing from the SEC in terms of quality and entertainment value. I think the only team, and this just might be the most basic cliche response of all time, the only team worth keeping an eye on for me is Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see they against Ole Miss. I mean, they fell behind 24-3, right, and then completely took over the game after that. Which I think was a huge win for them psychologically because Ole Miss had, quote unquote, had their number for 2 years. I mean, if that's an amazing streak against Saban, then that just shows how great Saban is. Like, wow, you beat him twice in a row. You own him. But Alabama, because I'm interested in their quarterback, Jalen Hurts. Not Hurd.
Not Hurts. Yeah.
Jalen Hurts. He wasn't amazing against Ole Miss, but going into that environment, he did not make a lot of mistakes. Unlike Swag Kelly, who was making mistakes at the most inopportune times. Yeah. But Alabama, when they opened against USC and won 52-6, everyone said, "Oh, it's over. It's over. They're going to win it all. They're going to go undefeated. They're the greatest team of all time. They could beat Jacksonville. They could beat so many NFL teams. They could beat Cleveland." But I don't think they're as great as that because I don't think there's any team in college football this year that's really dominant, and that includes Louisville. Because I don't think Louisville is going to keep going 63-20 on people.
Probably
but
not.
I want to keep an eye on Alabama because I want to see how they match up against LSU on the road and Tennessee on the road. I want to see those games. So I'm keeping an eye on Alabama because, they're the best.
That's an interesting take. And I'll save my team that I'm keeping my eye out on, or my eye out on. Yeah, I was right on that. With this next point that we're going to bring up. So out of the SEC games from this weekend in week 3, which game did you keep your eye on the most?
Georgia plays Ole Miss, right? Yeah. I'm going to keep my eye out on that one because I know this game might – I don't know how long-lasting the implications will be of this game, but for the SEC East, Georgia squeaked out a victory against Nicholls State in Missouri, and we all know Nicholls State and Missouri are two powerhouses.
Like Akron.
Akron had a top 5 defense last year. Don't sleep on them.
Hey, I'm not sleeping on Akron at all. Never.
LeBron's from Akron. But anyway, I'm keeping an eye on Georgia Ole Miss because Ole Miss is 1-2, and this is really their season almost at this point. If they even have a hope of winning the SEC West, which I don't think they will, but if they want to stay in that race, they need to win this conference game. And then Georgia, meanwhile, they haven't looked overly impressive. And if Georgia loses this game, that's goes well for Tennessee, especially if Tennessee beats Florida. Then Tennessee will be in the driver's seat, and they'll kind of control their own destiny in a way, although they still have to play Georgia. So I'm keeping an eye on Georgia and Ole Miss simply for Tennessee's sake and Ole Miss's sake in the SEC West.
So that's the game you're watching out for in week 4.
Yes.
That's going to be an interesting matchup. For week 3, the team that I really like, the team that I've been watching, that I think I'm going to keep my eye on, and the game that I watched this weekend that really just struck me was Missouri, Georgia. Bulldogs got by 28-27. Granted, it was played at Mizzou.
Wait, hold on. Were you asking what game last week I was watching?
Yeah, week 3. You're good, though. You're good.
I went week 4.
Oh, no, you're good. Week 3.
Okay.
Yeah, we can go back to it. Yours was the early quick take, which is a new segment we're going to be starting soon.
Oh, shoot.
So don't worry. You're good. You're good. You took the really quick take on that one, so that worked perfectly.
Yeah.
But for week 3, I was just looking back at the Mizzou Georgia game. Like I said, 28-27. Bulldogs get the win in this one. But while Georgia was the favorite, I thought it was very interesting how Missouri basically said, we're not going to let you get by with this.
Yeah.
But like I said, they were playing at Mizzou. That's a tough place to play against.
Yeah.
It's tough to go into the Tiger Den and win.
Yeah.
And so Missouri is the team I'm keeping my eye on this season in the SEC. I know that seems kind of like a random team to watch, but Mizzou is always a team that will just come out of nowhere and just take wins. And I mean, they could have done that easily against Georgia. Do I wish it would have happened? A little bit. I mean, it would have been really cool to see Mizzou get that kind of win.
Yeah.
But that's my team that I'm watching. I just think Mizzou has so much potential, as they do every year. Mm-hmm. And they could turn things around and just be really big in the SEC this season. But that's my week 3. Do you want to talk about your week 3?
Well, I mean, I already said Alabama is the team I'm watching.
Okay, yeah.
And then Ole Miss, Georgia is the game I'm watching for week 4.
That's good.
Yeah.
So for my
Just
quick
kind of
take,
skipped over everything.
No, you're good. You'll get it right. You'll get it right. You're good.
I'm a failure.
You're a veteran. It's all right. So for my quick take, which is the new segment we're going to do for SEC football, the matchup that I'm most excited about in week 4 is Arkansas, Texas A&M. My quick take reasoning, it is in Arlington. It's at AT&T Stadium. Will they do better than the Cowboys? Maybe. Both teams could score more points than the Cowboys do all season. Who knows? That's my quick take with that game, though. But it's going to be an interesting week for the SEC. Another quick take question that might come up later in the season. How many SEC teams are going to be in the AP polls next week?
Oh, next week?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. There's going to be some bloodshed this week. So some teams might get kicked out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be conservative with it and say 7.
7?
Yeah.
Who falls out?
I think Ole Miss is going to fall out because I think Georgia's going to beat them.
I could definitely see that one happening. And I mean, other SEC teams that received votes for this week, there aren't any. So could it be 7? You just might be right on that one.
I mean, then Florida could fall out if they lose to Tennessee. So it could be 6 or 7. I'll go 6.5.
6.5 works. Florida's in there for like an arm.
Exactly.
We'll see what happens with that, but with that one. But we're gonna keep talking about football and shift to the NFL really quick. We are now the first few weeks into the season, the first season without Peyton Manning on the field in a very long time. I know most people around here haven't stopped crying. David hasn't stopped crying. He's over here shedding tears.
I'm a Tom Brady fan, so it's fine with me. I'm glad Peyton's gone.
Well,
you can see that noodle arm get carried again.
There you
I'm
have
just
it
kidding.
from David.
I'm just kidding.
But for Vol fans, I know their biggest guy to watch in the pros was Peyton Manning for the past almost 20 years. So which VFL are the Vol fans going to shift their focus on to now that Peyton's gone?
Well, the obvious answer is Eric Berry because he's the best VFL left. But you know what?
That's true.
I don't care what the fans think because all I care about is what I think. And I think Cordero Patterson is about to have a career renaissance because, sure, he should never play wide receiver ever again because he's a very atrocious wide receiver who all he can do is run straight and he can't catch anything. But as a returner, he is electric.
I think it's fair. Patterson's great. He was great here at Tennessee. That's a guy you could definitely watch out for. I would definitely say Eric Berry is the obvious choice. I mean, how do you not root for Eric Berry? But Tennessee fans are also big on tradition, and nothing says tradition like family. So could it be a Colquitt brother?
Colquitt.
Who knows? I mean, Britton Colquitt's playing for the Browns. They are already 0-2. They are struggling. We'll talk about the Browns in a sec.
Browns are going to be fine. They're going 14-2.
That's another hot take. Wow, David is all over the hot takes today. But Dustin Colquitt, he is with the Chiefs. He's pretty good. He stays consistent. I think that's the way to go.
I mean, we all know the best VFL right now is Tyler Bray, but that's besides the point.
Good old Tyler Bray, speaking of the Chiefs. But
exactly.
I mean, right now the Chiefs are 1-1 on the season. Colquitt, he was a favorite here at Tennessee. How can you like the Vols and not like Colquitt's?
It's punter you.
True. Trevor Daniel, he's going to be up there.
He's the best player on the team.
Matt Darr, he'll be up there in the Hall of Fame one day too, probably. But I would definitely go to say Eric Berry is the obvious choice for Tennessee fans to follow.
Everyone loves him.
Definitely.
And rightfully so.
How can you not? He's such a great guy. But out of week 2, the week that we're almost finished with after Monday Night Football tonight, what game or player performance has stood out to you the most, positive or negative?
I want to go straight positive here because I'm going to
go
go with my man, Jimmy G. Jimmy G.
He's so good.
Here's the thing. He's playing so well. You can't, like, he lost all the letters of his last name except for the G part because he is Jimmy G. He is not Jimmy Garoppolo. He is Jimmy G.
I just call him Garoppolo.
Garappa Bay, whatever you want to call him.
That works too.
I don't even know how to say his last name because it's just Jimmy G.
Garoppolo.
He's Jimmy G. And sure, he got hurt, and I think they're saying it's day to day. But let's just listen to this stat line when everyone thought he was going to come in and just not do great. 18 of 27, 234 yards, 3 touchdowns, a QBR of 98.9, and it only goes up to 100, folks. So it's pretty close to 100. Now, he did get hurt, but what does this say about New England? I think it says that they are by far the best team in the NFL. Because imagine when Brady comes back, and everyone wants to say, oh, look at the system. See, Brady's not great. No, the system is in place for quarterbacks like Jimmy G to succeed, and then Brady will come back and just dominate. Brady doesn't need the system. A quarterback like Jimmy G needs the system, and the system is great. Jimmy G, all day.
You know, I almost put him down as my top performer for this week, but I wanted to take the negative viewpoint on this.
I love negativity.
So I'm going to talk about the Browns. They squandered a 20-point lead in the first quarter, mind you, to get outscored 25-2, and it all happened because of a blocked PAT to where the Ravens could get a 2-point conversion out of it. No
Poor
surprise.
Poor Browns.
It's no surprise for the Browns, but that's my performance of the week because how in the world does this happen? That is such a Browns thing to happen.
It's super Browns, and their backup quarterback got hurt, I think, or something like that.
The saga continues for quarterbacks in Cleveland. Will it ever end?
Lots of consistency there.
I guess so. I mean, maybe they can take something out of the playbook from the Cavs. Who knows? Maybe even the Indians. The Indians are doing great this year in the MLB. You have to give it to them. They're in the league. They're in the lead of their division right now.
Well, since the Cavs won the NBA title, the Indians will win the World Series, and the Browns are going to win the Super Bowl. Like, just don't. They had a 20-0 lead or 20-2 lead. You know, just ignore the rest of that game. They won.
Right. Ignore every other quarter of the game.
Exactly.
Right.
And ignore the first game. They're undefeated.
True. There you go.
So
there's hope for Cleveland. It's all about perspective.
It's all about perspective.
Triple play is all about perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's go ahead and have some fun with the NFL way too early Super Bowl predictions.
Oh, this is fun.
Who do you have in it?
Okay, I made this prediction before the season because I always make it before the season because I don't want to be. I know people who are like, I'm going to wait till week 16, and I'm like, that's really cheap. Yeah. But my preseason was out of the AFC, I had Pittsburgh, and in the NFC, I had Seattle.
Wow.
And yeah, I had Seattle winning the whole thing, but to avenge their tragic Super Bowl 40 loss, where the refs were clearly paid by the Steelers to call every call in their favor, which I'm kidding.
Disagree.
Steelers won that game fair and square.
Yes, they did.
Despite Big Ben playing like garbage.
Hey, Antoine Randall was great in that game.
Antoine Randall was a better quarterback than Big Ben in that Super Bowl.
With the one
but
pass.
That's besides the point. Here's my point. Pittsburgh, against Cincinnati, it's always going to be a tough game. Cincinnati's a tough opponent. They don't have Le'Veon Bell. They don't have Bryant for the whole year. But when Bell comes back, the offense is already ridiculous anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know how Big Ben does it. He only has Antonio Brown and a bunch of dudes that are not that great, and they're still putting up points. And so when everyone comes back, the offense will continue to flourish, and then the defense is only going to get better. I thought the defense has played pretty solid the first 2 weeks, especially since that was the Achilles heel, which it's never the case for Pittsburgh ever. The defense, the Achilles heel, is just strange. And then with Seattle, their offensive line's playing bad, but they always start slow to seasons. I'm not worried, and they always lose to the Rams for some reason. It makes no sense, but they always lose to the Rams. And so I like Seattle to turn around their offensive line woes. Russell Wilson that ankle is going to get healthier. I like them in the Super Bowl, and it's going to be an all-time great Super Bowl, but I like Seattle because of that defense and because Russell Wilson's progression as a quarterback.
That's a really interesting pick. As a Steeler fan, I'm happy you took my Steelers. I also have the Steelers going.
Shocker.
I never do that. This is the first time since 2009, I think, that I've picked them to go, and they won that year.
I will say that I'm kind of hesitant on the Steelers because of New England, but I'm still sticking with Pittsburgh because I made that preseason. Yeah,
my backup is the Patriots. I see that being the AFC Championship game, which, as a Steeler fan, I won't sleep for 2 months before that game happens or after that game
I mean,
happens.
New England's always in the AFC Championship game,
Exactly.
so you know they're going to be there.
But I have the Steelers going. I mean, like you said, I don't know how Ben does it. The guy gives me anxiety, I'll be honest, but he can pass, thankfully. Yeah. He knows how to make the plays. But I'm really excited to have Le'Veon Bell back. But D'Angelo Williams, that's my go-to man right there. What a running back. He reminds me so much of Jerome Bettis.
He is fantasy MVP for me right now.
He's on all of my teams, so I'm not complaining. I get laughed at every time I take him, and I'm just like, laugh
he
all you want.
He always dominates weeks 1 through 4, like he always does.
Exactly.
For Pittsburgh.
But I'm hoping and praying that Todd Haley will somehow decide to do a 2-back system. If you have Bell and Williams in there, Williams blocking for Bell.
Keeps him fresh a little bit, you know?
It'd be amazing.
Yeah.
You could run so many good plays.
Yeah.
But will Todd Haley do that? Who knows? He's an interesting OC to have on a team. But for the NFC, I have the Cardinals going. So my last time I put the Steelers in, it was 2009. Who'd they play? The Cardinals, and they won it.
That was an amazing
again?
Super Bowl.
I'll never forget that Super Bowl. So much anxiety. So worth it, though.
That and the Super Bowl between New England and Seattle are the 2 best Super Bowls ever.
Those were good. But, I mean, this Cardinals team this season, I never thought I would love Carson Palmer more than I do. That man is a great quarterback. So, and Larry Fitzgerald, another Pitt alum. What a guy.
Yeah. I will just throw in that, I mean, the Cardinals are a great pick. I mean, their roster is insane.
Mm-hmm.
But, and here's the but. Carson Palmer in the playoffs is absolutely an awful quarterback, and he proved that last year. Because, I mean, against Green Bay, he should have had at least 5 million interceptions, but they were all dropped. And then against Carolina, you know, if you reverse his stats, he did great, but he had 6 turnovers.
Yeah.
And it was ugly. I just don't like the mentality of this Arizona team. But
that's fair.
But it's still a good pick, though. I mean, they went 13-3 last year, and
fair.
they looked impressive on Sunday. So it's a good pick.
Something about this Cardinals team, I looked at it in the preseason. I couldn't take my eyes off of them. So could it happen? Who knows? But if the Steelers,
it's kind of like when a girl sees me, they can't take their eyes off of it.
Sure. If that helps you sleep at night, David.
It does.
Wow. You know what helps me sleep at night?
What?
The Steelers going to the Super Bowl.
Okay, but are they going to win?
Maybe. I don't need another thing like 2011.
You have to predict a winner. Who's going to win between Arizona and Pittsburgh?
I would pick Pittsburgh just because of the running game.
Wow. That's not bias.
It. Not even having Antonio Brown on the field. I would keep it to the running game.
Wait, are you saying they would win without Antonio Brown?
No, they'll have him on. They'll have him. He'll be on there.
Okay.
But I'm saying he's not the winning edge.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I would see the running game happening for Pittsburgh.
That would be an amazing Super Bowl. High scoring.
It would be very fun.
Yeah.
So real quickly, since we're already talking about postseason play with NFL, let's talk about the MLB really quick. We are 2 weeks and 1 day away from the start of the postseason for the MLB, and it's getting really exciting. And the most exciting thing to look at right now is the wild card race. So quickly, out of the wild card teams, who do you see making it into October play?
Well, I think you should go first in this segment because you know more about baseball than I do. And
that's fair.
To be completely honest, I don't pay attention to baseball until October 1st.
That's fine. I can make my predictions, and you can just see if you think they sound good. We'll do that.
We'll both have, but you go first.
Okay.
You go first.
So for the AL, I have Baltimore and Toronto right now. Baltimore, I want to say, is leading in the race. I think they're already a game over, so they're pretty much dead set. But I see the Blue Jays making the claim to get in there. It could happen easily. But the NL is what I'm more... I don't want to say worried about. I'm more intrigued with this matchup, I would say, with the race here. The Mets will get in, as sad as I am, but it'd be nice to see Neil Walker get in there, former Pirate. What a guy. I think it'd be cool to see the Mets get in there. But in terms of the other team, I know the Giants are right now the second team that are supposed to be getting in, but how do you not have an October without the St. Louis Cardinals?
You don't.
That's my other pick.
Okay, well, then I will just say that in the American League, I will have to agree with you because I think my preseason World Series pick was Chicago versus Toronto.
Oh, interesting.
That was my preseason one because I don't know why I picked Chicago, because I want the joke to still exist that they haven't won since the Ottoman Empire was around. But yeah, I'm going to say Baltimore, Toronto. I agree with that. And I mean, Toronto, they have a 2-game lead over Detroit for that second spot, so that's a pretty good lead at this point in the year. And, you know, it's as sad as this makes me because I'm a Cardinals. I'm going to pick the Cardinals to go to the playoffs because, I mean, I'm just going to pick them because I don't need logic here. I'm picking the Cardinals.
Of course.
Okay? Don't at me, okay? Don't at me.
No one's adding you.
But isn't it just insane the Giants' collapse over the second half of the season when they went into the All-Star break with a better record than Chicago did? And Chicago is about to get 100 wins. And this collapse is just mind-boggling. But at the same time, if the Giants get in, they're probably going to win because they have the pitching and they have the experience that other teams just don't have. 3 World Series the last 5 years. But I'm going to agree with you again, though. Mets, Cardinals, Giants are going to miss it because they've just been sliding too much, and their even streak is going to come to a tragic end.
I see the Giants missing it by a game.
Yeah, because they're only a game up
Just
right
a
now.
game. Maybe even half a game.
Yeah, exactly.
Who knows? Because this Cardinals team, once they see October is coming ahead, they just surge forward.
Yes.
That's how the Cardinals are. And I mean,
Yes.
they're 16 games behind the Cubs right now.
I think they can come back. Just kidding.
They'll win out. It's fine. But it's going to be an interesting race as we finish out the MLB season. Like I said, 2 weeks and 1 day. Not that I'm counting. I don't have a calendar set.
Not that I'm counting, yeah.
I'm not counting at all. I'm just a little excited, even though the Pirates won't make it. But hey, go Cubs, right?
Yeah, but who's going to win the World Series?
I want to pick the Cubs, but I don't know if I could do that.
They don't have the pitching.
Jake Arrieta has gone into a slump, but that's just how it's been. But their bats have been doing very well.
You ready for my pick?
Go ahead.
The Washington Nationals.
Whoa, Bryce Harper leading the way.
Make baseball fun again.
Oh, goodness. I'm going to stick with the Cubs for now. I'm just too focused on the wild card right now to really pick a team because I think things are going to fluctuate in terms of division leaders. Could the Indians do it? Probably not. But
you look so positive. Could the Indians do it?
Probably not. But that's just being realistic. So
Not
I'm going to
bad.
stick with the Cubs right now. I mean, I'm a little biased since I am a big Smokies fan. A bunch of former Smokies are on the team right now.
You cannot be a Pirates fan and support the Cubs.
Hey,
that's just
when you
against
know
the
guys
law.
that play for the Cubs.
That doesn't mean anything.
Happens.
That is against the law.
Cubs were my team growing up, along with the Pirates, since I couldn't watch them from 500 miles away. You have to watch baseball somehow.
No, you have to have one team and you have to hate all the other teams.
Well, I guess so. Perspective. It's all about perspective on the triple play.
True. That's true.
And so that's all we have for this week. It was a very packed show to get things rolling again here on Rocky Top at the Tennessee Journalist. But thank you for joining us this week. For David Bradford, I am Danielle Whaley signing off for the Tennessee Journalist. Thanks for joining us. Join us next week right here on the Triple Play.